Welcome to the I Fired My Boss franchise podcast. My name's Dan Claps, founder and CEO of Franchise Playbook, a franchisor platform where we create, own, and operate dynamic franchise brands in the mobile services space. And my life's goal is to help people just like you fire their boss and become a business owner.
And I'm Christian Dadalak, top franchise consultant and co-founder of Real Franchising, a leading franchise consulting firm. And together, we're on a mission to help people fire their boss, hire themselves, and live the American dream through franchise ownership.
I would not start another business again. Let me break that down. I did a post on this recently about how I would not start another business again if I were to go back in time 10 years ago when I first started out in business. And let me explain what I mean by that. But first of all, thanks again for attending the I Fired My Boss podcast. This is your host, Dan Claps. And what I'm going to be doing today is talking about why I would not start a business again from scratch if I were to go back in time. And why, if you're listening to this and you're thinking about being in business for yourself, buying a business, why I wouldn't just start from scratch if I were you and I wouldn't make the same mistake I made. So let me break that down first of all. When I first got into business, really was in college. I had a staffing and recruiting side hustle that turned into a business, and I had to figure everything out myself. And when I look back, the business, it wasn't that it was that hard. The things that were working were easy. The things that weren't working were hard. And figuring it all out on my own was the hard part. And so when I think about like buying a franchise, being in business for yourself through a franchise, it's like you're taking away the guesswork. Franchise doesn't take away the work, but it takes away the guesswork. And so this is something I think about quite often, how if I were to go back into business today, what I would do is I would think about if I'm going to partner with someone, I'm going to partner with someone that either has different skills that I have, capital that I don't have, or an audience that I don't have. And when you think about buying a franchise, a lot of times they have a way to help you find leads. They have capital in the sense that there's a lot of resources you're going to be able to tap into, right? From their already established systems and brands, team you're getting to work with their, all their training and management, training and stuff. And then also you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to work with, with someone that has skills different than yours. And when I say skills different than yours, what I mean by that is, you're able to work with the franchisor that's already learned all these things. So when I think about being in business for myself, but not by myself, meaning I'm in business for myself, I still own the business. I still control the outcome. I still have the equity if I sell the business, et cetera. I'm building an asset, but I've got the not by myself, meaning I've got the support of the franchisor and the other franchisees within the system. That's really the benefit of being in business for yourself, but not by yourself through a franchise. And so to kind of walk you through that a little bit, when I think about a business, and it wouldn't matter if it was a franchise or not, what I would think about is, how am I going to get customers and how are they going to, again, thinking of the franchise as a partner. If I was looking at a partner, it's like, how am I going to get customers and how's this partner going to help me do that, right? How am I going to get employees and how's this partner going to help me do that? How am I going to stand out in the marketplace? And how's the partner going to help me do that? And what are the numbers and what's the day in the life? And if the day in the life for me is one thing, what's the other side of the business that the partner's going to handle? If you look at the franchise as like a business partner, it's really probably a good way to think of it. And, it's interesting. I always think about let's use any business. Let's pretend a business had a 20% net partner. Okay. Let's pretend you had a business profit. You had 20% net profit in your business, right? And let's pretend that you had a business partner. Maybe your business partner had 30% of the business, right? They were the operating partner or they were, something else. And you were to have a 20% net profit, and meaning your 30% partner would get, a percentage of that profit, meaning 7% of the profit, right? That's really what a franchisor is, right? At the end of the day, they're a partner in your business. And yes, they're not day-to-day working with you, but they're providing you all the branding and the systems and the marketing and all the other things that you're then paying a partner a percentage of your net, although it's coming off the top. And it's really just so interesting to me because At the end of the day, having a partner, sometimes when you have a partner, you might look back later and it's like, oh, I wish I didn't have that partner. I could have done it on my own. Well, could you really? Could you really have done it on your own? You think that way at the time that you're further along, but the partner expedited your journey, helped you get there quicker, usually. And, it's easy to say and looking back, oh, I could have done this on my own. Well, you know, there's going to be times where you're not sure if you're getting the value. And then there's going to be times where, you know, you do. That's a great example. Like I've had partners where the partnership didn't feel like balanced. And then during times of need, that partner really showed up and helped us out of a bad situation. Remember, partnerships are not always about the amount of time someone's involved in something. It's more so about the value that they provide. Sometimes that value might be really, really high end at one special time and not all the time. Like I'll give you an example. In a sports team, right? Like, the kicker, right? At the end of the day, like they're not, in the game every single minute, like the quarterback is, or, mostly. But the special teams is still important to the game. And it's still a partnership. It's still a team share, team environment. It's the same thing with partnerships. Now, when I think about franchise, the other thing that people don't realize is that, if you're listening to this and you're newer to business ownership, franchises aren't just McDonald's, Burger King, food concepts or gyms. There's franchises in home services, like my company, Voda Cleaning and Restoration. There's all kinds of every industry in home services. There's a franchise for it. There's fitness franchises, food franchises, tax franchises, consulting franchises, senior care franchises. I mean, all across the board, there's so many golf franchises. There's so many different concepts. And pretty much any business you can think of, you could be a franchisee within reason if it's a local business. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about being in business for yourself, starting a business yourself, buying a business. You don't just have to buy or resale. You can buy in, franchise where there's a new territory. You can buy it for less money, build it up, and then sell it at a multiple one day. That's a great thing. And you get to tap into the brand and the systems and the culture and all the other things that a franchise, provides. It's so much easier to do it on your own, to do it with a franchise than to do it on your own. And it's still hard, don't get me wrong. But again, a franchise takes out the guesswork, just not the work. But the guesswork's the hardest part. When I think back to my time owning my own business, the hardest part was guessing what I should be working on. Once I had clarity on that, it was a lot easier to execute on the playbook.
You're f***ing fired.
If you want to say those words to your boss, make sure you head on over to ifiredmybosspodcast.com and fill out the form to schedule a no-cost consultation. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend who might also want to fire their boss.